Mark, the market is trading like this is really good news, this Japanese-US trade deal. Car makers in Japan are up by more than 14%. 15%, is that not a good deal?
Look, you're right. I have been very frustrated when I arrived this morning. Not as much caffeine as normal. So first of all, for automakers, it is a good deal. And I think actually you've identified the key point of why this is particularly good for Japan. Because I think suddenly it's making Japanese car makers much more competitive against US car makers. Again, undermining what Trump is trying to do. But there's a couple of things that are really upsetting me. One is, if suddenly we're declaring 50% as the new normal, 15 to 20%. We've just seen the Philippines deal, we've seen the Indonesia deal, we've seen the Vietnamese deal, all on that kind of level. If they're all going to get deals in that 15 to 20% level, well, then suddenly there's no need for them to be competitive on price. And that means that the full costs get passed on to the consumer. It's also still cheaper than building in the US, which means Trump not only reshores manufacturing, which was never going to work anyway, we all know that, but it's also ensuring that the costs do not get borne by the manufacturers elsewhere. They get borne by US consumers. So this is only damaging. Now, despite that, this has been traded really, really euphorically. And I kind of get it, even though it makes no sense, because everyone's realising we're going to get more trade deals over the next week. And somehow, bizarrely, several people have said to me this morning that if the EU announces a trade deal that's below 30%, that's going to be a massive win for Europe. But EU stocks haven't priced in 30%. So it makes no sense. And yet I see that's going to be the price action, because right now everyone's going, you know what, the next week is going to be only positive headlines. We've got to trade those positive headlines. We'll worry about the reality later. The reality is not good for the US in particular. Okay. It can be good for other.
I have never heard you talk faster. I'm just going to say that.
He is determined to rain on that's a big challenge. He's determined to rain on your morning.
Okay, meme stocks are up. The market loves all this. Yeah. Equities, but is this a good market? So if I'm a bull, do I like this market? Now, this is a really kind of weird thing to say, because actually in so many ways you could argue that this is becoming, and some people have talked about this overnight, a little irrational.
Steve Sosnick calls it a flight to crap.
Yes.
I actually don't think that's entirely fair. I think some of the macro backdrop's good. There's massive fiscal spending everywhere. Not most important in the US, but we're getting it in Asia, we're getting it in Europe. We've got long-term commitments from NATO, probably won't come through, but still, we've got massive fiscal tailwind. The fact is, dollar lowers and easing of financial conditions. And earnings have held up okay so far, a little bit more worrying in Europe. So the actual macro backdrop's not too bad. And institutional investors are underweight this rally. That's the kind of bull market you like. You love it when people aren't fully involved. So I actually think the macro backdrop's not terrible. The problem is we're heading towards real damage from this trade tariffs policy, and that is not priced at all.
What about the yen? What on earth is going on with the yen, Mark?
I told you I have no idea about the yen. Why did you ask me that? OK, if you want, I have been trying to think of it. I think the yen will ultimately weaken from here. I think that we're going to continue to see pressure to go for JGB yields to go higher, but I don't think that'll be positive. I don't think rate support comes through for the yen. I think also this spike in Japan stocks, given what I'm saying, will probably actually see some people take profit because it's a big foreign favourite in recent years. So there'll be a little bit of outflows to the margin. And I think given the political situation, continued pressure on the yen. So I think pressure in the yen, but I'm not high conviction about it, and I think the next week's going to be difficult.